Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. Just think about it, Darren, my wife Cindy urged, her eyes sparkling with excitement and mischief. We don't have to move in that direction. We can just find someone and have a little fling. I hesitated, nervously running my fingers through my hair. I do not know, Cindy. It's too much for me. I had no idea that you would treat our intimate life like this. It's not that I'm unhappy, she sighed, and her voice softened as she looked at me with understanding. You're great in bed, but I just think we could use a little thrill, a little variety. I raised an eyebrow. I mean, you want variety, Cindy. Everything you're suggesting sounds a little one-sided. Don't you want to find another woman? Cindy caught my eye, knowing full well that the night before I had declared that she was the only woman I wanted. You know I don't, I replied sincerely. But you were definitely intrigued by that video we watched last night, she prodded, her tone playful. Two guys with one woman seem to have hooked you up. In response, I nodded, reluctantly acknowledging this. Well, it probably is. But these women in the video haven't been my wives for the last decade, have they? I objected, trying to draw a line. No, but one of the men was her husband, she replied with a teasing smile. That was the whole point, wasn't it? After all, you said how hot it was for him when he watched another guy doing it in front of his wife. Her words hung in the air, and I couldn't help but wonder how far this conversation could go. Okay, honey, I said reluctantly, although, to be honest, I was more intrigued than I could have imagined. Where did you get such a video from anyway? Darren, she continued, completely dismissing my question. The fact that I watched this video last night and that Darlene mentioned this guy today is not just a coincidence. It seems to me that this is fate, don't you think? So why don't we go for it, honey? Of course it's a coincidence, Cindy, I muttered, although deep down I had to admit that it wasn't just a coincidence. It was too timely. I didn't want to show my hand too quickly, but to be honest, the whole idea was starting to intrigue me more than I wanted to admit. It's unusual, isn't it? Not really, she replied, her eyes twinkling mischievously. I knew I had to pretend to be indecisive, even though I was secretly delighted. Should I call him, honey? Cindy asked, her face lit up with the infectious smile I've always adored. I have his number. What's his name? I asked, lingering for a moment longer. Robert, she replied, her smile turning into a playful grin. I asked, trying to gauge how deep I was getting into it. Well, I already told you that I don't know much about him, she replied cheerfully. Only that he's supposedly good-looking and a real stud. I realized she was embellishing, but it didn't matter. It was time to put aside my doubts and let events develop in such a way that they began to worry me. With a resigned shrug and an exaggerated sigh, I finally gave her the green light to meet Stallion Robert. Thank you, darling, she screamed, practically bouncing on the spot, showering me with kisses and playfully pressing her curves against me. It was obvious that she was delighted, and, to be honest, I couldn't help but share her delight, even if I hid it under a facade of feigned reluctance. I'm sure you'll find it intriguing. At least, I definitely found it. The call was made, although I didn't hear the details, and the meeting was scheduled for the next evening. The plan was to meet this guy, Robert, at a pub that we didn't visit often to assess the chemistry between him and Cindy. If the spark slips, and the probability of that was low, we will return to our home to have fun to the fullest. The original idea of a little confusing lovemaking seemed to evaporate into thin air. So we were here, sipping our first drinks, nerves buzzing like electricity in anticipation of Robert's arrival. The fears were palpable. We both understood how easily this could turn into a disaster. Do you think that's a good idea? I asked, a note of doubt in my voice. But we've already arrived, dear, she replied with a note of determination. Let's just see how it goes, she added, and I nodded, taking another sip of beer to calm my racing heart. At that moment, Cindy leaned over to me and whispered, I think it's him. She pointed to a tall, muscular guy with dark hair who was walking towards us, scanning the room as if looking for someone. Cindy? Darren? he called out, feigning uncertainty as he approached. Yes, my wife replied, a hint of excitement in her voice. You must be Robert, she said, her smile bright and welcoming. Nice to meet you, Darren, he said, holding out his hand. I shook it, feeling the firm grip and confidence emanating from him. Your wife is much more beautiful than I imagined. What a clever guy. To compliment a woman by directing it at her husband? That's a bold move. I grinned slyly at Robert, who seemed to be enjoying the playful banter as Cindy leaned towards him, and her laughter sounded like music in the air. She kissed him gently on the cheek, her cheeks flushed with excitement. As the drinks poured and the conversations deepened, I noticed Robert's careful approach. He tried not to intrude too much into her space, but every touch on her caused a delicious shiver, making her squirm and giggle like a schoolgirl. In another life, I might have felt a pang of jealousy watching these two reunite so easily, leaving me in the role of the third extra. But instead, their chemistry intrigued me, drawing me into their little world rather than pushing me out. They were the stars of this scene, and I was just a spectator fascinated by their dynamics. So, can we invite Robert to our house? Cindy's question interrupted my thoughts after about half an hour. I shrugged, letting out a resigned sigh, and soon we were walking out of the pub, hand in hand, and she was comfortably ensconced between us. Maybe I should go in Robert's car to show him the way, she suggested with a mischievous twinkle in her eyes. With a sigh, I agreed, watching them get into his car and thinking about what could happen in those 10 minutes of driving. It seemed to me that it was a lifetime, especially considering that they took their time, 20 minutes in fact, and did not say a word of explanation. After going to the kitchen to make coffee, I returned to the scene that took me by surprise. Cindy was sitting on Robert's lap, and his hands were boldly exploring her jumper. The tension in the air has noticeably changed. Soon the jumper was dropped and I saw her bra, forgotten on the floor next to them. This is happening a little too fast, I interjected, concern in my voice. But my protest was ignored. Come on, Cindy, Robert, it's getting uncomfortable, I insisted, and my tone changed to urgent when I felt the room getting hot. Do you want to join me? Cindy asked, her tone betraying a lack of enthusiasm, but she still held out the invitation. No, I'm fine, I muttered, feeling a wave of nausea wash over me. I'd rather stay where I am and watch the scene unfold. Cindy didn't even pay attention to my refusal. Instead, she grinned and went back to her little game. My frustration boiled deep inside, and I tried my best not to give in to the urge to stand up and confront them. There was laughter, and every comment pierced my composure like a sharp knife. My God, what amazing breasts you have! I clenched my fists, determined not to let my irritation spill out. But the relentless teasing continued. Each giggle and sigh was a new blow to my resolve, forcing me to reconsider my choice. I've had enough. The tension in the room became unbearable, and without saying a word, I got up and slipped out, leaving them alone with their careless chatter. They didn't even have time to drain their coffee cups. And what's the best part? I doubted very much that they had noticed how I had discreetly put the camera phone back in my pocket. The next day, sitting in front of my legal eagle, I couldn't contain my excitement as we looked through the photos and videos taken the night before. Do you think this will impress Alex? I asked, grinning broadly. Absolutely perfect, Darren, he replied, clearly amused. He was grinning, his eyes glued to the screen, clearly enjoying the work he had done. How did you make these amazing shots? He asked, bursting with curiosity. Fortune and a little cunning, I replied, feeling the excitement boil up in me. We had the investigators' full report on the scandalous affair in which the two had been involved for the past 3 years, but oddly enough, he failed to take any incriminating photos. Without these pictures accompanying his conclusions, the case would have failed, and any judge would have presented me with the desired divorce decision on a silver platter. Fortunately, the investigator overheard how this bastard persuaded Cindy to expose me to such humiliation, forcing me to watch it. If he hadn't done that, I wouldn't have had time to prepare a retaliatory strike. I'll get the papers ready right now, he said, gathering his resolve. Darren will deliver them to her tomorrow. That was the end of our business, and when I left his office, I was overwhelmed by a wave of delight. I left a much happier man. Oh, how sweet is the taste of victory. The woman with whom I lived for 35 years and who bore me 3 children decided before retirement to get herself a young lover, whom she provided at the expense of our joint savings. It got to the point that this cheater decided to humiliate me by making love to him in front of my eyes, but he understood everything in time and exposed the cheaters. Now they will be punished for their misdeeds. I will do everything to ensure that she suffers the most severe punishment. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel. Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. Something was wrong with my wife, Brittany, my amazing partner and the love of my life. Since we crossed paths as teenagers many years ago, I had no reason to think that anything could disrupt our blissful bond. However, invisible clouds have been gathering over her lately. She's been uncharacteristically quiet for the past few days. One would have thought that a friendly couple like us could stand a short silence, but for me it was like a wake-up call. Any problem she couldn't share with me seemed like a real problem, and my instincts screamed that I should worry. What should I do? I questioned her gently, hoping that she would open up when the time came. Meanwhile, I was consumed with curiosity. I was eager to figure out what was bothering her. We always dealt with problems together, and I couldn't get rid of the feeling that something was emerging under the surface. Then, by a strange coincidence, everything took an unexpected turn. I swear it was pure coincidence and I wasn't chasing her, but here it is. Brittany's little sports car parked on the side of the road. The same bright beauty that we chose just a couple of months ago, perfectly painted and with the right license plates. No one could be mistaken that this was her car. If you're wondering why my heart started pounding at the sight of her car, I'll explain. While the car was parked, Brittany was nowhere to be found. She was more than 10 miles from this place. I found a safe place to stop half a mile from the road and quickly dialed her number, my heart pounding in anticipation. "Hello, Adam," she chirped. Her voice, as always, was bright and cheerful. She instantly recognized my call. But under this facade, I couldn't get rid of the feeling that something deeper was emerging. "How are things going?" I asked, trying to keep my tone even. "Oh, nothing special," Brittany replied, her voice bright and carefree, completely devoid of guilt. "I just met with my boss and everything went really well." "That's good to hear," I said, suppressing the frustration bubbling up inside me. I couldn't get rid of the feeling that something was wrong, but I didn't know what exactly and how to deal with it. So I did what I've always done. I didn't say anything. In the late afternoon, I returned home and greeted Brittany with a kiss when she came in, after which we went about our usual business. I was flipping through the TV channels, and she was immersed in work, probably some business that she had postponed for the day. I was plagued by a nagging sense of anxiety. I almost talked about it a few times, but I held my tongue, partly because she was so absorbed in her work. I told myself that I would find the right moment and talk to her the next day. It shouldn't be that hard. The next morning, I heard her soft voice in the hallway, clearly talking on the phone. It was obvious that she was talking to someone named Jordan, and my heart sank. "6:30 p.m. at your place will do for me," she said. "I'll just leave a note for my husband that I'm late at work. He'll be fine with that," she laughed. But the humor didn't reach me. The main thing is that the husband never finds out about it. A chill ran down my spine. What the hell is going on? Betrayal. It was like a slap in the face, and I fought the urge to rush to her to counter the rage bubbling inside me. But I knew I had to keep my cool and think carefully before acting. All I had were words, my accusations against her denials, and the identity of this Jordan was still a mystery. Nevertheless, I guessed where he was hiding. Somewhere in that apartment above the commercial building where her fancy car was parked. Oh, I have it in my hands now. I had the whole vile couple in my sights. I'll pay them a visit tomorrow. I imagined meeting him, telling him what I thought, and dragging her into the cold reality of what she was doing. But then, a wave of sanity swept over me. It was my wife, the woman I adored. The thought that she might betray me seemed like a bad dream from which I could not wake up. It wasn't like her to be unfaithful. Could it be true? I'll find out soon enough. She said it was 6:30 p.m. I'll be there, waiting, with my heart pounding with terror and rage. Just as I was sinking into my personal hell, Brittany's voice rang out, informing me that she was leaving for work. The front door slammed shut, sounding like a last goodbye. This may have been the last time I hear that sound. How tragic. The strange consolation was that only anger kept my heart from shattering. A job? That was the least of my worries right now. Hours have passed. It was like being trapped in a time warp where hours stretched into days, and every moment replayed in my head as I prepared for the inevitable confrontation. Finally, the clock struck 5:30. The time has come to act. A weight settled in my chest as I headed for the car, and 20 minutes later I found myself parked in front of the building where I had noticed Brittany's car the day before. Anticipation gnawed at me. Unlike the thrill of the showdown, this feeling was completely different. There was no satisfaction in it, only a bitter bite of betrayal. I expected to see her car, but at that moment I noticed that she was walking down the street, and her face lit up with a bright smile. Anger flared up in me. She walked up to the door almost opposite where I was sitting and impatiently tapped it with her knuckles. A moment later, the door swung open, revealing a man who was not at all what I had imagined. He was elderly, a little disheveled, and dressed in ripped jeans and a faded shirt that had clearly seen better days. He didn't have the suave charm I'd imagined. Rather, he exuded untidiness and rudeness. That was my signal. It's time to take control of the situation. Gathering my resolve, I threw open the car door and rushed towards them, expressing rage and inflexibility. The man noticed me first, and because I was radiating rage, he pushed Brittany, drawing her attention to the storm that erupted behind her. When she turned around and saw me looming over them, her face lost its color. "Dear!" she gasped, her voice trembling. "Why are you here? What do you think I'm doing here?" I growled, giving the bastard the dirtiest look I could muster. He will regret it very soon. "Adam, for God's sake!" Brittany sobbed, her voice shaking. "I didn't want you to find out." "I'm sure you didn't mean to," I replied, fuming. "You didn't really think you could get away with it, did you?" I pressed. My voice rose. "I'm sorry, Adam," she pleaded, trying to calm me down. "Is this really such a serious problem?" "Is there a serious problem? Not that serious?" I spat, squinting in disbelief. "Of course I was upset. Damn it, Brittany, how could you do that?" "For the last time," she began, waving her arms in a desperate attempt to explain. "For the last time?" I interrupted, feeling tears blurring my eyes. I couldn't ignore the fact that it wasn't the first time. "Let's calm down, Adam," Brittany interjected, trying to calm the chaos. "There's no reason to be so worried. I'll deal with Jordan. Why don't you go back to your room and we can discuss everything calmly?" "Calm down?" I repeated, my rage bubbling up as I tried to contain it. "Talk about it calmly? It's about our marriage, for God's sake." "Adam, you're exaggerating the situation too much. Such phenomena happen all the time. It's time to come to terms with this," she said dismissively, as if my world hadn't just collapsed around me. "Brittany, damn you!" I exclaimed, and the words almost stuck in my throat. "It's just terrible. You didn't just dent your car or something." "Isn't it?" Brittany's eyes widened in disbelief. Her surprise was obvious. "What do you mean, a dent in the car?" I staggered back, confusion gripping me. "What kind of dent? The one on my car?" she said, her voice sounding nervous. "I mean, I dented my shiny new car. Did Jordan fix it for you?" My brain was racing, trying to untangle the tangle of information. "Yes," she admitted, looking down as if she was ashamed. "I didn't want you to find out and freak out like last time." "Jordan?" I mumbled, my thoughts whirling in a disorderly whirlwind. "Nice to meet you," the garage owner chimed in with a hesitant smile on his face. "Did you damage Brittany's car?" I asked, remembering the name. "Yes," she replied, concern creeping into her voice. "Last Tuesday. It's just a scratch. and I thought I could fix it without you knowing. I'm really sorry, dear." But at that moment, a wave of rage swept over me. She lied to me without blushing. "Okay, then give me your phone." "No, honey, you don't have to do that." I snatched her bag out of her hands and took out her phone. When I got into their correspondence, Brittany had tears in her eyes. "It's over, Brittany. You've ruined our 35-year marriage." What I saw in their correspondence instantly destroyed all the feelings that I had for this woman. This man was about 10 years older than Brittany, and she delivered intimate services to him for expensive gifts and trips to luxury restaurants. I took her phone and drove away from this corrupt woman. The next day, I provided all the evidence of her infidelity to her lawyer. Thanks to the prenuptial agreement, Brittany will leave our marriage penniless. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel.